maybe an M80 or two went off. She had had enough, and she exerted her alpha status by taking a step up onto the back deck and commanding us to settle down, or she was going to toss us all. John Faulkner, one of the toughest guys in the group, had a funny little comment that was not quite under his breath. She quickly identified the culprit, and with a smile and an index finger pointed in his direction, told him he better watch himself. Her warning was heeded, and we were off with quite a bit less gusto to find a new party. Sally had a great personality and a great laugh and could be as warm a person as there was, but you did not mess with Sally. Paul and Sally had a wonderful marriage, and I saw it from the inside. After all, there could be no more pure look at how a marriage operates than from the way back of a Caprice Classic wagon on a 9-hour road trip. Matt, Jeff White, and I would be in the way back on top of luggage. The middle bench was empty, but you didn't want to risk being too close to the P's, as they might hear what you were saying. Our conversations would include our plans for dusting with as much snow as possible those who had fallen on the slopes beneath us. And we would also discuss the girls we expected to meet on the slopes, who we simply referred to as snow buddies. Whitey's latest Weird Al album was the soundtrack for these trips, and how Mr. and Mrs. Bando could put up with that wretched music for hours absolutely astounded me. They obviously loved us. They would sit up front and offer food and drink periodically, and then they would talk and laugh, and Paul or Sally would tell a story here or there. One thing was for certain, there were plenty of laughs. When you were with the Bandos, it was always fun. And although Sally was no nonsense and tough, she knew we were going to do some stupid things and get into some trouble, and that was all part of being a kid and growing up, and she was comfortable with that. Now as a parent, I know exactly what she was doing when we would do something sophomoric, and she would act mad, then quickly turn and exit the room. She was being a great parent and having a good laugh by herself out of earshot. I always knew Paul was a good guy, but I did not realize just how great a guy he was until this last month. The love and care he showed Sally was amazing. Look, over the years I spent a lot of time with Paul, but I was watching him slam dunk against us on Matt's low hoop or playing tackle football with him every Thanksgiving until he was into his late 50s and we were in our early 20s. Let's just say I was not witnessing the tender side of Paul. To be honest, I did not know there was a tender side. But I'll tell you what I did know: Michigan State baseball stories. Heck, I could reel off the names of the players in these stories. Dick Raditz, Ron Peronowski, Earl Morrill. I could go on. Raditz, he could throw heat, prankster, played for the Red Sox, Cubs, Tigers, Indians, struck out Mantle 50 times. Peronowski, LA Dodgers pitching coach. Earl Morrill, played for the Miami Dolphins, but did you know he committed 6 errors in a game? Well, Paul was on deck at the end of that game, and they lost. And when Sally was within earshot of one of his doozies, you could always count on her rolling your eyes. Oh, Paul. But she loved hearing him. And there were others beyond state baseball. Heck, to this day, Paul can still bring me to the edge of my chair with the story of how he put the 5-minute mile in serious jeopardy and ended up with a 5:04 at the MSU intramural competition. And who could forget the time Paul beat up the Michigan State heavyweight boxing champ? Moral of that story, don't call Paul a punk. They are colorful stories and we love them, Paul. I just didn't know you were such a great and caring husband. You don't learn that stuff unless you see what I saw over the last month. Paul, the way you, at all hours of the day and night, cared for Sally when the chips were really down. As far as I'm concerned, Paul, that American Legion no-hitter you threw when you were 17, it was great. But what you did last month at 78 was your finest hour, and Sally would agree. When Matt informed me that Sally was dying, he told me he would be totally committed to seeing her out the right way and with no regrets. On most days, he would arrive early in the morning. Several times when Sally opened her eyes, Matt's face was the first thing she would see. When moments like this would happen, Matt would call me with a sense of accomplishment and give me the play-by-play of how he quietly entered the room and how the second it registered with her that she was awake and he was there, she would break into a big smile. Of course, it wasn't always smiles. There were a lot of doctor's meetings and pain, and it was raining. 3 weeks ago on a Saturday afternoon, Matt had just taken Zan swimming when he stopped by for Zan to say hello. Zan and I talked while the car was running. They just had a moment, and then they were off to see Sally. Matt, who has more energy than just about anyone I know, fell asleep while we were visiting. But he motored on. He was fueled by the love for his mother, which was really just a reflection of her love for him and all that he had done for her, all that she had done for him throughout his life. We should all be comforted in knowing that Matt was there with Sally in her final moment. On Monday, as Sally's condition worsened considerably, her eyes had closed, and I suspected that she might have drifted into a coma. It seemed clear that she was leaving us. Matt, of course, was going to spend the night, sleeping on the floor just outside her room, as he had done on many occasions over the last month. Throughout Monday night and into early Tuesday morning, her breath was labored and could be heard just outside of her room. Just before 3 a.m., the hospice nurse heard a change in Sally's breathing. It was no longer audible and was now effortless, and she had opened her eyes. Matt was quickly awoken. He walked in the room. Sally saw him. Then she closed her eyes. Matt held her hand, and she took her last 3 breaths with Matt at her side. We were all lucky to have known Sally. Sally was truly a beautiful person, and I think the best thing that can be said of Sally is that during her time on earth, she made the world a far better place.
Okay. Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out today to celebrate my grandma's life. My name is Bando, and I've known her for now 13 years. I'm going to read a poem and then a speech, and in my opinion, this poem defines who she is. The title of the poem is Another Leaf Has Fallen. It goes like this. Another leaf has fallen, another soul is gone. But still we have God's promises in every robin song. For he is in his heaven, and then when he takes away, he always leaves to mortals the bright sun's kindly ray. He leaves the fragrant blossoms and lovely forest green, and gives us newfound comfort when we on him will lean. In my opinion, that poem defines who she was. Here's my speech about her. When my parents told me how serious Grandma's illness was, first thing I thought, the first thought I had was who I was going. First thought I had was who I was going to talk to the way I talked to her. Grandma and I spoke on the phone almost every day, We always talked about the way this new